Welcome into A to Z Sports Draft Special Edition. It's still prime time, but we have a few hangers on that have entered the chat, like Bill O'Brien in a running back trade. We have Austin Stanley and Zach Bingham of A to Z Sports in the morning joining us today for this show. Yes, B-Ret says, wow, we got all three. We're rocking and rolling, baby, and we're going to have a good time. We are going to have a running back discussion here with the three of us to kind of initiate our first night of draft coverage. Of course, we will be with you Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday with A to Z Sports Draft Specials. Boys, this is going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to not talking as much, and I'm happy to have you here.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. We've got some good topics today. We're going to find Derrick Henry's backup for a running back for the Titans in the draft. There's no more Dion Lewis. So I know, Buck, you and I frustrated by Dion Lewis the last couple of years. No Dion Lewis. So got to find a backup running back for Derrick Henry. What round? Who could it be? We've got some options on that. We'll discuss our quarantine question that we have sponsored by the Tucker Agency involving Jadeveon Clowney that everybody's going to drool over. And then, Buck, you said this morning after our show that you have some info on a pick in the top 5. And Zach has some mysterious, what the biggest storyline is going to be in the first round. So we're going to talk about what we think the biggest storyline of tomorrow night's first round in the draft is going to be. Three-way here on A to Z. Pretty excited for this.
Yeah, not like that, though. We're keeping it clean here tonight. So you can speak for yourself there, Austin. I will speak for myself and tell you how excited I am about this show. This is going to be fun. And not only are we going to do this on Wednesday night tonight, this is how it is going to roll for the rest of the week. Live reaction. That's what we're going to hit you with Austin Stanley, Buck Rising, and myself. I am geared up, man. NFL draft is on the horizon. It is NFL draft eve tonight. That's why we're going to break things down. We're going to talk through it. And then tomorrow, once they work through their technical difficulties, I'm talking about the NFL, we will react to however many picks it takes right before the Titans pick. We will react live with you guys. It's going to be awesome. So before we get started, make sure you share this bad boy. Share it on Twitter. Share it on Facebook. And you guys know how to do that. And now we're broadcasting on YouTube. So the streams are just piling up. So I'm pumped up for tonight to talk a little ball, as they say, with A and B.
Yes, and now that all of you are here and you're all excited for this A to Z Sports three-way, the unsexiest of three-ways, let's go ahead and get this going officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports Primetime NFL Draft Special, powered by Tennessee Tickets, brought to you as always by the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. The screen got smaller, but that doesn't mean there's not room for our man Gary Ashton to dream and dress without the stress. Don't sell without the intel. GaryAshton.com. Our friends at Tame the Beast, Austin and Zach, know that they need to wash their hands with GetBeast.com and use the promo code AZ50, save you a little scratch. You use their fine hygienic products, you stay safe, you stay clean during these times of the Rona. GetBeast.com is where you go. And of course, our friends at Brymac Mechanical, HVAC for your commercial or your residential needs, customized to whatever it is that you specify, and satisfaction guaranteed. Service owned or service disabled, veteran owned. Chris Hamby and the squad got you covered at Brymac.com, BRYMAK, Brymac.com. Jason Donahue starts us off and says, Zach looks like a 70s porn star. And I would say I've seen mini Vrabel, and I have seen a 70s porn star now. So we now have the bidding started off with Zach's mustache jokes here on Prime Time, but we have to talk about running backs.
I'll take both as compliments.
You should in stride. We have to talk about running backs, though, and we have to talk about who will complement Derrick Henry. How about that transition? Which running back, the question for you all, as we will get ready to discuss, which running back should the Titans target as Derrick Henry's backup? This is the thing that they will need, a skill set to help supplement what Derrick Henry does not do, and that is stay on the field on third downs. There are plenty of options to pick from, boys. I don't know how far down in the draft or how high in the draft you're willing to look for this particular position. But I'm curious to see what the answers in the comment sections are, and I'm curious to see what your opinions are on the subject matter.
Well, as the resident A to Z Sports mock draft addict, I guess, as Zach called me this morning, I guess I will start this. I will start this off and say, I think a lot of people want the Titans to trade back in the first round, maybe get out of the first round, get an extra second round pick. Currently don't have a fourth round pick. And I feel like the sweet spot in this draft for a running back is going to be in the second, third, and fourth. And if the Titans have 2 second-round picks because of a trade, maybe that opens up a possibility. If they have an extra pick because they currently don't have a fourth, I think that makes a lot of sense. But they're not going to be players for a running back in the first round, so they're probably not going to be in play for the big names that are J.K. Dobbins, DeAndre Swift, and Jonathan Taylor. I think those 3 are automatically off the board because those guys – really, if the Titans draft one of those guys, it's kind of wasting some of that talent because you still want to give Derrick Henry the ball 250 to 300 times next season. And so you don't want to have a guy you draft that high, that talented, not doing as much.
Well, what do you think about what they did with Derrick Henry in the second round when they drafted him and DeMarco Murray? Because that was a high draft pick. That was a second-round draft pick. Now, it wasn't at the top of the second round. We all know close your ears, earmuffs, Kevin Dodd. We all know that high second-round pick. But they did a very similar thing when John Robinson came on the scene his first year as general manager. So I wouldn't be surprised if he did it again because replacement is a harsh word because Derrick Henry is the bell cow back. He's the reason why they made it to the AFC Championship. He's the best player on the team. I don't think anybody can argue that. They franchise tagged him. That was a strategy. I do think they need to go out and find a backup running back, and this is kind of the draft to do it. I agree with you, Austin. I don't agree with you often, but I don't think you're going to get the top running backs in the draft, like you mentioned, the DeAndre Swift, the J.K. Dobbins, even the Jonathan Taylors of the world. But you can get some good running backs in maybe the second or third round. That would value – that's a valued position because, Buck, let's be honest, what have the Titans told us that they like to be over the last several years? They want to pound the rock. They want to run the football. You're going to have a guy better than Dion Lewis, who they've been throwing away $5 million over the last couple of years.
See, I'm fascinated to see how this dynamic works out because already you two are agreeing with each other, and I'm so used to having nobody to disagree with that this dynamic should be interesting to watch play out. Yes, you're right about what the Titans want to be, what the offensive identity is with the running back and Derrick Henry. A few of you weighing in on the comment section. Jacob Keller says Darrington Evans from Appalachian State would be a good value in the 5th. Johnny says he's still disappointed with Austin for being a Chick-fil-A hater. I'm not sure what that has to do with the comment.
That was this morning. We don't want to get back into that.
Well, we absolutely should get back into that at some point. Cam Akers or Zach Moss from Utah, says Jake Accorda. This is the thing, right? That we know what they want to be. We know that they are a running football team in a time where people are trying to escape the run. Now, we've seen a little bit of a course correction with the way that Matt LaFleur and the way that Kyle Shanahan, how they've kind of predicated their passing games off play action and off of a strong running game. But in each of those situations, there are 2 running backs required. So despite the fact that they do want to run the football, they do want to ground and pound, you still need to have the ability to have another option for when you can't have such a drop-off like with Dion Lewis, where Dion Lewis starts the game against the New Orleans Saints and you know that you're going to lose, even though you had a very, very good chance of having success in that game, if not for the Khalif Raymond fumble, and we won't relitigate that. What I look at, though, and I'll give my answer on this. I'm trying to decide when to give my answer on this. How should we play this, boys? Should we give our answers, all 3 of us, now?
I think we can go read some comments because I saw Mickey Ryan from 3HL, who you will talk with Friday after the Titans do something in the first round.
Yes.
He mentioned that Todd Furman from Vegas on their show said that the over-under for a running back draft in the first round is at just a half a running back. And yeah, I've listened to a lot of different podcasts and draft shows where there could be 2. It could be just DeAndre Swift. It could be the Dolphins in the 20s. The Chiefs at 32 could take a running back because God knows they need another weapon. But so I think the Titans are going to be out of reach for the top three, like we mentioned. I think Cam Akers is the first name where you're like, all right, Cam Akers and Clyde Edwards-Helaire at 61 overall in the second round. Is that too high for the Titans to draft a running back there? Let's say they stick and pick at 29 and they get they have to reach on a cornerback because a couple of the big guys went. And they take Edwards-Helaire or Cam Akers at 61. Is that something that we think is good value?
I think he's a totally reasonable value if you were a team that was looking for a running back of the future. But the Tennessee Titans are looking for a running back to pair with Derrick Henry. Cam Akers, what he gives you is not what you require in the passing game. You're going to need a more competent catcher of the football, a more versatile player. Now, Cam Akers was surrounded by hot trash at Florida State. You go back and watch that offensive line. There are a few players who got the ball behind the line of scrimmage and had to make something. A few players who did more behind the line of scrimmage than Cam Akers had to do over the course of the year. There's value there in him, but not for the Titans. I don't know how you feel about it, Zach, but for me, that is not a feasible solution.
So I followed Cam Akers from when he was in high school, South Panola High School in Mississippi. He almost chose Ole Miss. It was between Ole Miss and Florida State. He chose Florida State. Both kind of ended up with the same record, unfortunately, for me. But Cam Akers, look, the reason why, he hasn't been in the spotlight because of what you referenced, Buck. Florida State was not very good over the last couple of years trying to figure out what the hell Willie Taggart was. But one of the things that he does, and he's fast. He is creative, maybe sometimes too creative at the line of scrimmage. He likes to go lateral instead of north and south.
And sounds like a problem Derrick Henry had early on.
Right?
Yeah.
And so you've got to watch that. The other knock on Cam Akers is his fumbles. In 3 years of Florida State, he fumbled 10 times and he lost 7 of them. You don't want that, but I would say maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves because we're assuming, right? Every time you assume, you sometimes can make an ass out of yourself. What if, and I'm not saying that this is going to happen, nor do I want this to happen, but what if Derrick Henry, like last year, a little hamstring or something happens, you can't just completely not have a running back in your backfield, right? You're going to have a competent running back that can step in, and they've already kind of shown us throughout free agency, they haven't valued the free agent running back market because they haven't gone out and gotten anybody. They tagged Derrick Henry really quick, obviously they went up to the final hour, but that was before free agency hit. You're going to have to get a backup running back that can play if, in fact, he's called on, if God forbid something happens to 22.
And I will tell you exactly how they should do that, and we will read more of your comments on the subject here in just a second, right after I remind you about our friends, reliable as always, the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. The Tennessee Titans, myself, the Nashville Predators, Nashville SC, Topgolf, all go to the Ashton team because they are the people that we trust here in Nashville. They're not coming in from out of market trying to poach the Nashville real estate market. The Ashton team has got you covered. And not only do they have the best and most reliable real estate service in the mid-state, they are offering virtual tours to make sure that you are protected from COVID-19. You can go check out your dream address without the stress like I did. You just do it virtually at GaryAshton.com. You follow them on Instagram at Gary.Ashton. You will find more of the virtual tours available there as well as featured listings. They are the people that you trust, the most reliable in the business, the only people that I would trust for my dream address without the stress. Check them out at the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage, GaryAshton.com. Let's read a few more of your comments before we move on in this discussion. Matty Rich 60 says on Periscope, give me Anthony McFarland from Maryland late, maybe 5th round. Thunder and Lightning will be back.
Your boy Mel Kiper, Buck, loves him some Anthony McFarland. I know you've talked to him a couple times.
Get Booger out of the booth while you're at it if you want him, because that's Anthony McFarland too.
Yeah, that is funny. Booger's name is Anthony. Forgot about that.
Listen, I defer. I'm now officially in the tank for Mel Kiper. Mel Kiper can do no wrong in my eyes. because we're boys, we're besties. Mel Kiper and I, we have a great relationship. And so I am now officially all-time Team Mel, Todd. No, sir. But for me, here is the strategy that I'm going to lay out. Because not only do I think they need somebody to complement Derrick Henry, I do think they need to prepare for the future like they did when DeMarco Murray was still on the roster. DeMarco Murray coming off a year when he was the leading rusher. No, that was prior to him being the leading rusher in the AFC. This was DeMarco Murray, the player who was capable of great things, a former NFL Offensive Player of the Year. And they went ahead and drafted a Heisman Trophy winner in the second round. That's what the Titans, not necessarily the Heisman Trophy winner angle of it, but they need to draft a running back in the second round. And how they do so is they equip themselves with more draft capital by trading out of the first, by trading out of 29. Fingers crossed that there are no technical difficulties for anybody but Dave Gettleman, because we all need somebody to laugh at. They trade out of the first round and they move into the second, and they go get the running back of who I think could both help Derrick Henry and possibly replace him. I am all in on Jonathan Taylor, running back out of Wisconsin, in the second round. I think he didn't get enough opportunity with the way that Wisconsin runs their offense. I think that if he got more volume in the passing game, as they tried to do with him early in the season, he's one of the most prolific running backs that Wisconsin has ever had. I think he's better than Melvin Gordon was in college. I think that this guy has a lot of potential, and he's already somebody who runs north to south, which in this offense, you need worse than air. Jonathan Taylor in the second round, after you trade out of the first, that's the move that I would make. Now, exactly how high up you need to go for the guy, that depends on how this draft breaks. But I want to
ask you this, Buck. Do you know how many carries that Jonathan Taylor had throughout his course at Wisconsin?
A lot. That's all. I think I can find.
Give me a number. Let's play a guessing game. Austin, you get a guess. Buck, you get a guess.
I have a follow-up question to yours for Buck as well. Peppering Buck from both angles for this. So you
give me a guess. How many carries?
You want to guess first, or you want me to?
Buck, go for it.
Somebody make a decision.
You asked Buck the question.
Buck, you go first. Austin, you go second.
Total carries throughout the course of his career at Wisconsin?
Yes.
I mean, he's got to have upwards of 900.
Yeah,
give me a number. We're playing prices right. You're not going to win any of these prizes, unless you give me a number.
Don't be afraid to go over.
Don't be like Austin, Mr. Fence Man. Come on, give me with a number. Hit me with it.
955.
Austin,
I'm going to say 870.
Well, one went over, one went lower. 926.
926. Okay.
That's a lot of carries, though, for a running back, and then he's just going to go in the league. Besides Melvin Gordon, and this is just kind of the follow-up of the Wisconsin conversation, is besides Melvin Gordon, who has really had – I mean, there's been a lot of superb running backs come out of Wisconsin, but they've come out of Wisconsin, and they really haven't done much besides Gordon, who – look, he's done well with San Diego / LA.
A big Monty Ball guy.
Monty Ball. Really. Ron Dane didn't do a damn thing.
I look at this is not. I'm not going to do the running back from Wisconsin. He can only be as successful as his predecessors were. If we were going to do that, you wouldn't draft a Clemson defensive lineman because of Kevin Dodd, and that was a real conversation that people had last year. I do think that he is a different kind of player, and again, the film study that I've done over the course of the draft preparation for this year, not as intense, and certainly, it's more intense than when Melvin Gordon was coming out. I will absolutely admit that. But for as much as I have seen of Jonathan Taylor, I'm concerned about fumbles. Less so, I think, from college to the pros. I think that fumbles aren't something that necessarily can be held against you. I mean, they can be held against you, but they shouldn't be the nail in the coffin. And carries for guys in college. I mean, Derrick Henry was the product of something similar in Alabama. Now, he didn't play
1 year.
Play as much. I understand that. But if you're getting 40 carries in a game or whatever that outrageous
between 300 plus, in which Derrick Henry had his senior season, and 900 plus over the course of his Wisconsin career. I just bring that up. It's not because of Wisconsin. It's because of the offense and how they focus their running games, right? It's just all these running backs have a ton of carries. You talk about the tread on the tires. When they get out of college, maybe that could be a reason of why they haven't had the success. I just
I'll say this. I'll say this. One good thing about what you're saying with Jonathan Taylor is, and I know this from a person I know personally, is if the rookie year in the NFL, if they are not the guy, they kind of allow their body to heal back. Like if Jonathan Taylor comes to the Titans, he's going to get 100 carries tops in 2020 if Derrick Henry stays relatively healthy. Now, that means Jonathan Taylor has a year off to kind of get a breather, get his body to heal back from a draft process and 300 carry seasons back to back to back at Wisconsin taking a beating. So that could help Jonathan Taylor. But I like Jonathan Taylor. He's got 18 fumbles in his career. He had 5 fumbles last year, and it seemed like those fumbles came at the worst time for Wisconsin in some big games. So fumbles kind of freak me out with Jonathan Taylor, but overall, as Zach just sips that Coca-Cola with a mustache like he's in an 80s commercial, I feel like Jonathan Taylor. I feel like Jonathan Taylor, they would have to move. They would have to get Jonathan Taylor in like the 30s if they want to get him. I just don't think that's probably likely.
I agree. So, Austin, where do you go in this situation? Because they're going to have to get a running back, you would think, at some point during this draft.
Sure. Look, the only way I think it's okay to take a running back in the second round is if you traded back and you have 2 second-round picks. So I'll say that first. And then you have more other picks. I like Keyshawn Vaughn a lot, Vanderbilt guy. I know he's battled some injuries, but dude had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons at Vanderbilt, and his 1,000-yard season he had this past year at Vanderbilt, I feel like was more impressive than the one before because Riley Neal couldn't throw the ball 20 yards. And Buck, you know how boring that offense was. Vandy lost a bunch of offensive line men from the year before, and he still ran for 1,000 yards, being the only guy who could just get the football and go. I think Keyshawn Vaughn would be an absolute stud who's got a lot of receiving ability too. Nashville kid as well. I think you can get Keyshawn Vaughn in the 5th round and be completely okay with that.
Listen, as somebody who works for Vanderbilt Athletics during the season, I don't know what kind of boring offense you're talking about. Relentless, tough, intelligent, anchor down, baby. That's the only way to go.
Yeah, that's the way Austin lives his life. We know that. Every day he wakes up, he's anchoring down.
I think Keyshawn Vaughn's legit. I really do. I think Keyshawn Vaughn's legit.
Absolutely. And to your point about that offense, I mean, what he was able to do in a year when it was particularly anemic, and you can criticize the play calling, you can criticize the quarterback talent in a year where they knew they had to prepare for life after Kyle Shermer, and they simply just did not do enough. But the point that I make is one that Josh brings up on Facebook Live. He says, Buck, are you assuming that we need to get a back to replace Henry? Are you trying to say he will leave? We're just talking about a backup running back because we need one. And that is an assumption that I am making. I am going to assume that there is a small percentage chance that Derrick Henry is on the roster after 2020. I think that everything that they have done is strategic with how they've handled it, how they've talked about it in the media. And I think that taking advantage of Derrick Henry, be it on a tag this year or even a tag next year or just letting him walk, I think you have to be prepared for life after Derrick Henry because I don't think it's going to be as long-lived as a lot of Titans fans would believe. That's why I'm placing a higher value on running back in this year in particular because their needs kind of line up with the way that this draft falls. Now, you could make the argument that they very badly need offensive tackle depth, if not somebody to push Derek or Dennis Kelly this year, and that the tackle depth falls off dramatically after 35 when you look at these guys. But I do believe that the running back situation needs to be addressed sooner rather than later, and I think this year presents a particularly good opportunity to do so.
Zach, who's your guy? Who's your guy?
You guys have made your pick. I'm going to go with the ties. I'm not talking about a necktie. I'm talking about the ties that the head coach has. Mike Vrabel, the mustache, the man. I think he's going to influence this pick, and my prediction is going to be Boston College's own AJ, the Sauce Dillon. You know why they call him the sauce?
Why is that?
He loves applesauce, baby. That's his favorite food. Doing, you talk about crack research. I don't come to this live stream without doing a little research, boys. I've been hitting the books all day. I'm ready for this draft. And A.J. Dillon, hey, just but 2 days ago, tweeted out, I'm going to shock the world. He may be shocking the world here in Nashville. He can catch the ball. And you know what he did? His stock went up. Now, it didn't go up to rounds 1, 2, or 3 or anything like that, but it went up for the combine because he ran a lot faster than what they thought he was going to run. A.J. Dillon, I do think the ties of Mike Vrabel and Boston College, he comes from a good, clean family. I think that makes a lot of sense in the later rounds. If you're not going to, because I think overall, I think this is going to be a storyline to watch. We talk about running backs tonight right now. Where are the DeAndre Swifts of the world and the Dobbins? When are they going to get off the board? How early? And that's going to be a huge piece of, and we've seen running backs go. I mean, I don't want to bring up any bad news. We already brought up Kevin Dodd, but Bishop Sankey, the first running back taken in that draft, ugh, gross. I'm trying to get that taste out of my mouth.
God, is that real? He was the first running back taken?
Yes, he was in the second round. He didn't do a very good job, let's just say that. But then what happened? After Bishop Sankey came off the board, then that started a little bit of a snowball effect. So where these top 2 running backs go, I think that will shift the board around. But I think A.J. Dillon, I wouldn't be surprised if the Titans go there, because in a year of a coronavirus, because all these bad eating people overseas, we've been going crazy, right? And as Austin, you've talked about this on our show, you don't get that face-to-face interactive. Actually, Vrabel's got some recon on A.J. Dillon because he's close to the program. That's why it's my pick.
It's fair. And I think that's something that Vrabel can lean on for sure.
Yeah, no, A.J. Dillon makes a lot of sense, and he's got a lot. I mean, I can understand why you like A.J. Dillon, Zach. He's very much, I mean, nobody is like Derrick Henry, but there are freakish abilities that he possesses. He's built, I mean, he is a very, very large individual when running backs seem to trend mostly the same size. And in the third round, it would seem like he could make a lot of sense. Again, I don't hate the idea of it. I think they could do with a lot worse options. I just think they need to go sooner rather than later. And when you talk about how early the top 2 running backs go, I think the better question is how late do the top 2 running backs go?
Well, and Teron pops up there on Periscope and says he thinks the Dolphins' 3rd first-round pick, which is crazy to say, which is 26th overall, or the Chiefs at 32 could be where the running backs start. And I do feel like once the first one goes, the second one's probably not too far behind. And then really after the second one, I think you're going to see 3, 4, 5, because we haven't talked a lot about Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think that guy is really talented, not necessarily a fit for the Titans offense, but for the majority of offenses that are not like the Titans in the NFL, Edwards-Helaire makes a lot of sense too.
I think it does, but now we need to talk about something which makes more sense, which impacts the Tennessee Titans more. It is time for the Tucker Agency quarantine question of the day. We do it every Wednesday, brought to us by the fine folks at the Tucker Agency, whom I will tell you about momentarily. First, though, in the comments on Facebook Live and on Periscope, here on A to Z Sports Primetime, powered by Tennessee Tickets, the first of our NFL Draft Edition shows that we will be doing over the course of the week. Plenty of great content for you out there, courtesy of the A to Z Sports Network. We are all working very hard, both front-facing and behind the scenes, to make sure that you have it covered. But I want to know from you guys, which has the greater Titans impact? Is it Jadeveon Clowney, who we discussed a little bit last night, or the 2020 NFL Draft? Which of those things has the greater impact on the Titans this year? Clowney or this year's draft class? Let us know on Facebook Live and on Periscope. It's the Tucker quarantine question of the week, courtesy of the Tucker Agency, that has you covered from personal insurance to commercial insurance. Their expertise encompasses the entire industry. Maybe you have a street legal golf cart that you would like to make sure that you have insured properly. the Tucker Agency has you covered. If you need to know a little bit more about what all is entailed in your auto insurance coverage, the Tucker Agency has you covered. From all aspects, the Tucker Agency, you can check them out at tuckertn.com. Our fine friends who take care of us here in the mornings on the A to Z Sports Morning Show and here on Wednesdays for the quarantine question. Check them out, the Tucker Agency, tuckertn.com. Your response, guys, because I spent a little time on this last night with Jadeveon Clowney. We get little droplets of news that come out each week now that he has officially been on the market for 5 weeks as an unrestricted free agent since the NFL league year officially began. We had this conversation last night about who has the greater impact. Is it this coming draft class in a year that you are setting up for all intents and purposes to win now? Or is it Clowney, the one piece every team who is considered a contender is always vying for, that one piece that will really set you over the edge? Clowney seems to fit or check a lot of those boxes. I have already kind of given my opinion, but I think there's opportunity for us to expand on that here. And we look forward to your comments, of course, on Facebook, on Periscope, and on YouTube. I can't forget that. Which has the greater impact in your opinion?
I'm monitoring these comments, and I'm seeing a lot of different people, different opinions too, which is surprising. I thought most Titans fans would go with Jadeveon Clowney being the most impactful because you know what he can do immediately. You know the most about him. You know he can come in and be a big-time player on the Titans defense at a position of need. But for me, I think I have to go to the Titans draft class. If you're giving me the entire draft class, I think because of what John Robinson's track record has been, he's a good drafter. And yeah, sure, Kevin Dodd was awful and that was a bad pick. But look at last year's draft. Jeffrey Simmons, A.J. Brown, Nate Davis, all humongous impacts. Amani Hooker played a lot of snaps in a lot of different areas, and that guy's going to have a much bigger role. Then you look at David Long, came up huge in a big-time playoff game when Jayon Brown got hurt. So there's a lot of really good draft picks in that class. I have to say the draft class is going to have the bigger impact because you've got 7 picks right now, and I like the way that the Titans in general have been able to use their rookies to also have an immediate impact, not just free agent additions.
Yeah, and I figured you were going to go with the draft just because I've worked with you quite some time. And
I'm a mock draft addict.
Yeah, you read exactly where I was going to go with that.
Put the needle down, man.
Because I've been working with you for a long time. I knew where you were going to jab me after I was jabbing you.
Well, and you know what? And I'm going to go the other direction. Yeah, you can see you in draft land. I'm going to go with Clowney. And I'm going to go it for one singular reason. And we talked a little bit about this morning show, but I think this is the reason why Clowney is the correct answer to this question. And it's simple. The worst position last year was the pass rush. And they've had to do that over the last several years. And Dean Pease has done a hell of a job of doing exotic multiplicity. They created a damn word. Multiplicity coming from every angle. Logan Ryan was coming off the edge. Adoree Jackson got in on the action. They were blitzing Wesley Woodyard at one point. Jayon Brown. Now you can have, and Mike Vrabel knows this, if you get Clowney, you can have the traditional pass rush that every team desires. That's why Clowney is that important. And the rumors coming out, the 15 or 13 to 16, whatever that price tag is going to be. Now you've got Vic Beasley. You've had the emergence of Harold Landry. You re-signed Correa, and you've got Clowney, who's a proven commodity. The guy is a game wrecker. The Titans have not had a game wrecker off the edge in a long time. Javon Curse is probably the last guy, maybe KVB. I'm pushing it there.
Hey, that 2008 D-line was pretty strong.
It was pretty strong. I don't want to take away from that. But Clowney changes so much of your defense because the offense and the offensive line and those tight ends that maybe traditionally would just go out for a route, they have to game plan against Clowney, and it helps everybody else. It helps Simmons inside. It helps Daquan Jones, who has been consistent. I'm going to go with Clowney on this, bar none. I know the draft, look, it's Tiger of the field. That's what it is. But I'm going the singular asset of Clowney because of what it does to this team within their championship window. They were one game away from a Super Bowl. That's a championship window.
Teron says he likes the Clowney mention. He takes away need to have all of their blitzes. You can devote more of those blitzers to coverage, which is true. I just think
Common coming in with some spitfire right there. That's some good rhyme right there.
That's right. That's right. So look, it's so weird that Clowney is still out there and there's just dark cloud hanging over Titans fans
no. This is not weird at all. This is a man who does not understand his value and
it's weird for Titans fans to going into this draft. How is is John Robinson sitting at his mega desk with all of his computer screens and his case of Red Man under his
degrees thermostat? This man is an insane person. Sweat it out. Clearly, he's trying to sweat it out.
Right.
I'm not happy with the quarantine pounds. His face looking a little round on the Zoom call. Maybe that was the lip in, but maybe he's just trying to sweat it out during the draft.
That's just bad angles there on the camera. But is J-Rob sitting there at that desk thinking at 29 overall, do I need a pass rusher? Because I could just go get Jadeveon Clowney right now if I really wanted to. Is there anybody that the Titans could draft at edge rusher that would take Clowney off the table?
I mean, if by some great fortune Chason from LSU falls to them, which is nearly an impossibility, maybe that kind of affects your thinking. But here's the beauty of the Clowney thing, and Zach is right, but for not exactly the same reasons as I think that Clowney is. Because what Zach is saying is traditional. You have a traditional pass rush, and what you mean by traditional, right, is the ability to bring pressure with four. That is, outside of competent quarterback play, that's the most important thing that you can have in professional football. But the thing about Clowney is he's non-traditional. He is not an edge rusher by trade. In fact, Seattle probably misused him for as many times as they just left him out on the edge as a pure pass rusher. This is somebody, the beauty of this is Clowney is a luxury. They have depth at this point. Now, maybe it's not the best pass rush in the league.
Luxury's pushing it. I mean, he's a need.
He's a need, but after the moves that they have made to kind of fill out what is replacement level depth at that position, I'm more comfortable with the Titans pass rush heading into 2020 than I was heading into 2019 when the biggest acquisition was Cameron Wake at 37 years old. So, very small bar to exceed, but the purpose of Clowney is non-traditional pass rush. The ability to move this guy and to play him on the interior, to stand him up the same way that you did with Jarrell Casey, to move him all across the front and create a non-traditional pass rush for a scheme that is at its core versatile and multiple, the thing that they continue to preach to us over and over and over again. For me, Clowney is the right answer, even though I recognize that there are few of these, high-priced free agents that you're one piece away. Very rarely do they pan out because injuries and the toll of an NFL season, all of these things. And certainly when your team doctors can't get your hands on this guy, this is another reason why this contract remains unsigned by the Titans or any other team. But there's no question that they needed him in Kansas City. There's no question that they ran out of gas to get to Pat Mahomes, and they were dropping extra guys into coverage because they just needed to. They were trying to get pressure with three guys who could be considered defensive tackles at that point. They
weren't even trying to get pressure, Buck. Let's face it.
At the end, they weren't.
They were just defending against, let's face it, greatness. And to what you were saying, and I agree with you, Buck, you talk about Mike Vrabel and his connection with Clowney, but really you talk about Mike Vrabel and my personal opinion based on Dean Pease' exit, how much his hands are going to be on this year's defense, right? How much we think he's going to be involved. That's one of Vrabel's best attributes as a coach, and that can help that pass rush, that defensive line in which he played. So I think that solidifies our answer, Buck. So I like your answer. I'll give that a thumbs up right there. You get a like.
We are. It's not the love of the show. I got to work a little harder.
We still got more topics to get to.
I still can't figure out how the hell to do that. I'm going to have to take a love of the show class. We are asking you guys the quarantine question that we do every Wednesday, presented by our friends at the Tucker Agency, tuckertn.com. Which has the greater impact, Jadeveon Clowney or the 2020 NFL draft class for the Tennessee Titans? Many of you weighing in on the comments on Facebook Live, on Periscope, and a few of you on YouTube. Welcome to the A to Z Sports Experience, YouTube friends. Very happy.
Well, hey, Phil's got a question I want you guys to answer. It's on Periscope. Phil Cosby Jr. He says, do you guys think that they already made a deal, like the deal's in place with Clowney, and they're just waiting till after the draft? How do you think that? And again, we don't have any inside information. But or maybe you do.
Inside here.
Well, then what?
Spill it.
Yes, spill it right here on.
What have you been doing this whole time? We've been talking for
you. What are we paying you for, bud?
Both of you simmer down. This is still my show. Everybody relax. Everybody back to your corners. Mom and dad back. Stop fighting. Okay.
Been talking for 41 minutes. And you're just like, oh, I've got Clowney information.
Listen, I'm just happy I'm happy to sit back and enjoy the ride for 41 minutes. I'm having a big time. I don't know.
This is a roller coaster, bud. This ain't just a Sunday stroll with Miss Daisy. Come on, spill some beans.
But this is the same thing that we've been saying, guys. They have the terms that they want to offer Clowney. These terms have already been offered. They have not yet been agreed upon, and that is, I think, that is the thing. It's not new information. We know that there was an offer made. We know that the offer is not nearly what Jadeveon Clowney wants, based on his opinion of himself and based on what he feels like the market should bear to him. He has been unwilling to move off of that position because of years and guaranteed money. It's the same thing with Clowney. The medical complicates it, and it keeps this deal from being done. The deal exists. It just can't be signed until, one, they get their team doctors on him. Nothing's happening until that. And two, at least until after the draft.
Well, and Damon brings this up, and I remember seeing some discussions about that, about if Clowney is signed before the draft, then Clowney and Jack Conklin cancel each other out when it comes to 2021 compensatory picks. I've heard that been thrown out there.
Yeah, but Ryan Adams on YouTube. Way to go, Ryan, who was mentioning that about compensatory picks.
Yes. So if they wait until Monday, like the 27th, I believe is that date, then the Titans would get a third-round compensatory draft pick. I don't remember the last time the Titans have gotten a compensatory draft pick, because really they don't lose the free agents they want to keep. Like Avery Williamson is kind of the last guy that's been able to walk out in free agency to get big money before this past year when Jack Conklin went and did it. And Mariota did, obviously, but that was a different circumstance. So maybe, look, Clowney's not going to be like, okay, Titans, sure, I'll wait until the 27th so you can get your comp pick. But I feel like they're waiting on several things to fall into place. And I think the number one thing is Clowney's medical. The number two thing is Clowney's ego for that price tag to come down.
Stone Stoop Kid, which great tagline. How can everyone else get physicals done but Clowney? Hell, Gronk got a physical right away. This is, look at Zach smiling about Rob Gronk.
Oh, I've thrown out the love of the show real quick before you go. The love of the show has been dished out. And for maybe a couple of reasons, Zach, great name, Zach Goodman, he says, I'm telling you, Clowney's going to probably wind up in Tampa Bay like everybody else.
But here's the thing that's important to note. Gronk's physical was already done. Now, it was done by an independent doctor in Boston. This is not something that the Tampa Bay team officials have done. And Zach, you may correct me if I'm wrong on this, but has that transaction been officially announced by the team other than them tweeting out gifts? Is that official?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. So that transaction has been made official, and I guess they're comfortable with the Boston area doctors. This is the way that things are being done. Tampa Bay's just grabbing for all of the names and to make sure that the Boston doctor sends with Gronk to Tampa Bay a can of WD-40 that he needs to be able to run down the field at this point because he's Frankenstein's monster.
Zach, did I tell you I put some money on your boy Bruce Arians to win Coach of the Year?
No.
All right.
plus 1,800 all day.
Easy.
All day.
You got to think, look, the Titans had rough patches to deal with Vince Young and Jake Locker. I completely understand that. But the Bucs have been having to deal with Josh Freeman, Mike Glennon, and then Jameis Winston throwing crab legs in the air for interceptions for however many years.
What a ride.
They're grabbing anything that they can get. Gronk was a huge get. You gotta do whatever you can to get Gronk, even if he's a little bit longer in the tooth like Brady.
Everybody forgets Gronk only had 3 touchdown catches his last year in New England. That was the lowest of his career. That dude was banged up.
Yeah, but he had the catch that ultimately won them the Super Bowl. This is the trade-off that you're willing to make.
Sure. I ain't as good as I once was, but in the Super Bowl, I'll make a big catch.
I was good once as I'll ever be.
Yeah, I combined them.
And he's still just as big a dumb puppy as he ever was. We are taking your comments here on A to Z Sports Primetime, powered by Tennessee Tickets. The quarantine question: what would you prefer, or which do you believe has the bigger impact, Clowney or the 2020 draft class? I think the majority, honestly, the more that I look at the comments, it seems pretty even split, but I've seen more about the draft class than I have about Clowney, at least as I scroll through here. I think, and listen, I think we can all understand what the draft represents. It's building for the future. This is not, but the Titans are set up particularly well to win now. And I think that's kind of the disparity that we're finding between answers between Clowney and the 2020 draft class. Scott Proctor says ESPN reported $17 million a year. I'm told from within his circle, it is down to $13 million a year. From Tony Pauline on 3HL. I have no idea who Tony Pauline is. Do we know who Tony Pauline is?
I'm on it.
Do we give any kind of credibility to the idea that Clowney would be? Maybe that's the offer. Now that makes a hell of a lot more sense if that's the offer that was extended to him. I don't think that's accurate.
Tony Pauline works for Pro Football Network as an NFL draft analyst. No blue check mark, but screw that thing. Duran says Tony is a solid draft guy, but I doubt he's in on Clowney.
I don't. That information is inaccurate. I would say. I think that's a little reckless by your boy Tony there in Philadelphia.
Hey Tony, come on.
Tony with the cheesesteak. Wait, is Tony's the cheesesteak place?
I don't know.
Regardless, let's move.
You're
on.
a Philly guy, Austin. What are you talking about?
Who's a Philly guy? Oh,
me. The in-laws, Philly.
Big Sixers guy.
Sixers. I got robbed of the Sixers playoff run. I mean, come on.
Well, you know what? No, the Sixers were going to rob you of the playoff run regardless. You don't have to worry about that. That's a Sixers problem. That's not a Philly problem. I would love to go to Philadelphia and try some of their cheesesteaks. I love cheesesteaks. And so you got to go to the Capitol if you really want to judge. So
you know why I know Tony Pauline's name? Because I'm looking at an email that was sent around by his organization about the opportunity to interview Tony Pauline. So it could, with the 615 sessions, could have had the exclusive. We could have had Tony Pauline saying the Clowney's going for $13 million. But meanwhile, it is time to talk about what is allegedly Tony Pauline's area of expertise. More on the NFL draft. The most interesting draft storyline heading into the Titans pick at 29. What will carry the conversation leading up to the Titans pick? What will be the thing that we are most gas-bagging about by the time the NFL draft gets here? Let us know on Facebook Live, on Periscope, and now on YouTube. We welcome all of your comments there. What will be the most interesting draft storyline before the Titans pick at 29? While you guys give your answers to that, I will remind you about our friends at Brymak Mechanical. Brymak.com, BRYMAK, for all of your HVAC needs. Not only residential, but commercial as well. As things begin to open back up, you're going to want to make sure that everything with your business is secured and sound. The thing that starts first and foremost, the temperature control in your building. Check out our friends at Brymak.com. Chris Hamby, one of the best in the business, 3 locations across the mid-state and southern Kentucky. Go to Brymak, BRYMAK, and they will get you taken care of here, kind enough to take care of us, not only residential, but commercial with A to Z Sports Prime Time. Welcome. We always enjoy our friends at Brymac. The most interesting draft storyline. I've got a little bit of tea that I've got on the third overall pick. The Detroit Lions are currently shopping, it sounds like, but there is a little bit of information there to be gleaned. I want to know from you guys which you or how do you want to do this? What's the best way to orchestrate?
Well, I feel like we can get Tua out of the way, and Jeff Roberts brings up the Lions want to trade away from number 3. And that's kind of what you're talking about, Buck, is you've got some inside info on the Lions wanting to move back out of 3. I mean, because everybody's been saying just Jeff Okudah is obviously going there because they traded away Darius Slay in free agency. So what's your nugget on the Lions at 3?
So a lot of things have changed since the Combine. And at the Combine, things were being discussed with the status of Matt Stafford and his back. It's not something that the Lions feel like can be completely relied upon for Matt Stafford to finish a 17 or 16 game for this year, 16-game season. He's had degenerative back issues, and they are going to be needing to look for a quarterback. Now, whether they take a quarterback at 3 or whether they take some kind of king's ransom from the Dolphins and work to get a quarterback and another player later, I think that the obvious thing for Detroit would be corner because, of course, it makes sense on paper. It's very one-to-one. But I do not rule out the possibility of Detroit taking a quarterback. I don't necessarily think that could be Tua based on what people are saying about the medical evaluations and how much they fear that hip.
That's true. I got a trivia question for you guys. Toronto like this. When was the last year the Detroit Lions took a corner in the first round of the draft?
Dre Bly?
No,
because he got traded from the Rams.
What a callback. Good job out of you.
That Dre Bly's a great name drop. Dre Bly was badass. All right,
break stride with that.
but it's not Dre Bly.
I wish I would have. If I would have nailed it, I would look like a genius.
But not. It's not. 1998. Terry Fair out of Tennessee. The last time the last time the Lions have drafted a corner in the first round was when Buck was 5 years old.
Yeah.
No, you were 4. You hadn't even turned 5 at that point.
In what year was it?
98.
1998. I would have been 4. Yeah. July 98. I would have turned 5. The situation with the situation with Tua is the obvious answer, right? He continues. You have people like, and whether you respect the opinion of the former Dolphins GM who has now been picked up on ESPN as an analyst. Why am I blanking on his name right now? I cannot for the life of me think of it.
Joe Shad?
No, it's not. No.
You said Dolphins. He's on the beat.
No, it's Mike Tannenbaum.
I can't. Joe Shad. I should.
Look, dude, two oldies but goodies. Dre Bly and Joe Shad.
Joe Shad cracks me up on social media. He might actually follow 20,000 people, and I'm proud to say that I'm one of them. Joe Shad, shout out. Mike Tannenbaum has said consistently that Tua Tagovailoa should not be a top 10 pick because of the medicals, flat out because of the medicals. Now, you saw what the Mike Tannenbaum era looked like in Miami, and maybe you should not necessarily.
It looked like Tua's medicals.
Yeah, shattered, one might say. No, it's a tough thing to evaluate because especially, I don't know if you guys saw Dennis Pitta, the former Ravens tight end, talking about just how difficult it is to overcome a hip injury after you've had one. Now, it's not the same hip injury that Pitta suffered while he was with the Ravens that ultimately I think derailed what could have been a better Ravens team. That was what made Joe Flacco look like a competent NFL quarterback throughout the playoffs that year. It was Dennis Pitta and Anquan Bolden at 85 years old. But when you look at the hip injuries, there's so much more uncertainty, I guess, is the answer to that. And I don't know if it's enough to take him out of the top 10 when he's clearly on film the more talented player than Burrow, but you just can't overcome the medicals. But I think that, without question, is the thing that we're discussing.
Well, now it's talking about the Dolphins trading up to 3 to go get the best tackle because the Giants are going to not take Isaiah Simmons and they're going to take a tackle, which I think the Giants taking a tackle to protect Daniel Jones makes sense. But now the Dolphins want to move up to get their tackle of choice. And then now Okudah and Simmons are going to fall, slide a little bit. What do the Chargers do? The Chargers maybe like Herbert more than Tua at this point. So where is Tua falling? Are the Jags at 9 just going to have Tua fall in their lap? If that's the case, do you do it? If you're the Jags, or do you – I don't know. It's interesting. The Raiders at 12, I think, are somebody to watch for Tua. I mean, could you imagine John Gruden having Derek Carr, Mariota, and Tua, and then kick Derek Carr out the door, and that's
not going to happen. I think the curious thing about the quarterbacks, we all know that Justin Herbert, we know Joe Burrow is going to go, and we know Tua is probably going to go in the first round. It's where does Jordan Love fall? Because is he going to go in the first round?
Yes, what do you absolutely. Absolutely. Jordan Love first round all day long.
I think if Herbert is a first round draft pick, I think Jordan Love has to be, right? I mean, if I turn on a Jordan Love or a Justin Herbert game and I'm like, wow, that guy, he's really got something, but I always leave unimpressed. But I look at Jordan Love, I'm like, whoa, this dude is incredible. Despite, the turnovers this year, what do you call them? 17 teaching moments or teachable moments. I think that if Herbert's a first round pick, Love has to be as well.
Yeah, well, Jordan Love lost his coaching staff, a lot of like 9 starters around him. And so that's why he struggled some last year, is because of that. But Jordan Love, here's what my number one storyline that I think we're going to be talking about Thursday night, because, guys, we're going to pop up like this tomorrow night before the Titans pick. So we're going to have probably 20 picks under our belts in this draft, and I want to know kind of what we're going to be talking about. There's going to be a team that we're not thinking of that has a quarterback that goes up and gets a quarterback. And is that Jordan Love, or is it because Tua falls into the teens? And I don't know, the Steelers, who have been Roethlisberger for 2 years, so jump back up out of nowhere to get Tua. I'm not saying it's the Steelers for sure, but something like that can happen, because it happened 2 years ago or 3 years ago with Deshaun Watson and with Patrick Mahomes in the same draft.
So, and on the quarterback situation, this is not my singular topic, because I do think it will be overshadowed by another one that I'll disclose. But since we're on quarterbacks, really, guys, I mean, we've skimmed over it. It's pretty obvious. You got to just kind of come back to life. It's, what are the New England Patriots going to do to replace the greatest quarterback ever to play the game? They don't want Cam Newton or Jameis Winston. Those guys, they don't want them.
No, they already have an Auburn quarterback.
Right? And so what are the Patriots? They're going to have to do something that they have never done in over 2 decades. And that is, instead of trade back, they're probably going to have to trade up.
They're going up.
That is the storyline of this draft, because they cannot hitch their wagon to a Jake Fromm or a Jacob Eason or even a Jalen Hurts. I would be surprised or shocked if they waited till day 2 or day 3 to get a quarterback. They have got to go get their guy. They've got to get – that's the number one position in all of team sport, and they don't have one.
Well, and it's interesting because the Patriots have drafted the second most quarterbacks in the NFL draft since they've taken Tom Brady.
And they're behind. All
right. And they have never taken one in the first round, obviously.
They sell them off for parts, like Jacoby Brissett. It's genius. You take what you may not need, you let them go.
Exactly. Jimmy Garoppolo. Back in the day, Ryan Mallett was a Patriots draft pick who they sold to the Texans, and he sucked. I mean, there's so many examples of that. To me, I don't know.
Keep buying spare tires and you never get a flat, and you just keep selling them to everybody that needs a spare tire along the way.
It's like that one douchebag in your fantasy league that drafts all the running backs and just that was you. I know it was you.
That was a subtle shot right there.
But you didn't know what you were doing, to be fair to you.
Well, but now that I actively know that that's the way to sandbag a fantasy football draft, I'm going to be that douchebag from here until the end of time.
Doesn't Jacob Eason just feel like a Patriot in the third round?
God, he's dull enough. Oof.
That's kind of what I feel like. I feel like
I think the Patriots are going to surprise us. I think they always do, and we've now started to notice their trend, their tendencies. This year's unorthodox. I think that's going to be the biggest story. I mean, you've got the Joe Burrow and the Tua and all that stuff. The biggest storyline are the New England Patriots, the dynasty for the first year without Tom Brady, and now everything's focused on Tampa Bay. It's coronavirus has taken over this damn country. Everything's weird, right? So I think this NFL draft will go to that and the Patriots of what they're going to do.
You said Eason, not from Austin.
I said Eason.
I thought they kind of look alike. I got the white frat boy
Georgia
stuff.
Georgia, white frat dude. Yeah. Eason's got like long, slick back hair.
Eason, I enjoyed talking to at the combine. Jake Fromm, I believe, to already be 55 years old.
Yeah, Jake Fromm, boring. Get me out of there. Now, Teron says that Teron's commented a couple times about Jalen Hurts being a fit with the Pats.
Well, I mean, that's because the Pats will make Jalen Hurts fit. It's not about the fit with the Pats. The Pats are smart enough to figure out what the hell to do with Jalen Hurts in a way that most coaching staffs are not smart enough to be. They can very easily pull. It's nobody's Lamar Jackson, but they can pull out some kind of skill set because they're not the same player, right? But there is creativity to be found in New England, and if I trust anybody with Jalen Hurts or Isaiah Simmons for that matter, it'd be the New England Patriots.
And Hurts has already proven he's got a good track record because he's done it at two different, really prestigious university and football programs.
And who's Bill getting the scouting report from?
Saban,
Lil Nicky down there in Tuscaloosa.
Oh man. The draft starts in 22 hours.
Ooh, spicy.
How about that?
We have a countdown going. We have a countdown going in the comments.
All right, so quickly, I want to get to my main storyline that besides the Patriots, I think this is something to talk about. And it's not anything new. Ian Rappaport, you already talked about the tackles. I do think that will be a top storyline of the top half of the draft. But overall in the first round tomorrow night, I think it's all predicated on one man, and that is the man from LSU. It's Justin Jefferson, because I think what will happen, I think the first guy off the board will be CeeDee Lamb. He's the best wide receiver. Then you've got the two Bama wide receivers. T. Higgins is right there. But I think that could start a historic night for wide receivers taken in the first round because they're valued. But it all depends on, in my opinion, where Justin Jefferson of LSU lands. If he goes early and teams get desperate for a wide receiver, I think you're going to start knocking them off. And you could, I don't want to say 7 wide receivers in the first round, but that could happen with this draft class because of the need of that position and because it's a passing league and because of the depth at what we have going into tomorrow night.
Well, it's interesting because the wide receivers do fascinate me too, because you saw the Broncos are trying to trade ahead of the Bucks, the Niners, the Raiders, and maybe even the Jets. I think the Jets are going to tackle, but the Broncos might be trying to get to top 10 to go get the receiver of their choice. The Raiders have 2 picks. A receiver is going to be one of them. If the 49ers stick, they're going to take a receiver. Then you look at the Jags, the Eagles need a receiver. The Vikings desperately need a receiver for sure. So I could see, and the Packers. I think the Packers is where that receiver trend might start going really fast at 30. If Jefferson goes early 20s, the Packers need to get like Denzel Mims or Brandon Ayuk. I think that's where the receivers can start to fly off the board.
I think we're going to see 10 receivers taken before we see a tight end taken this year. Like, I think that's a very, very real thing.
10's a low number.
There's a ton of them and a very weak tight end class.
What's the number in the first round? That's what I'm saying. We're talking storylines on Thursday night. Yeah. I think that's going to be, history is going to be made. I know Austin's going to be pouring one out for his boy Hawkeye, TJ Hawkinson, because he's not going to be in the draft. But seven? You think 7 wide receivers?
I think 7's too high.
That's what my prediction is. That's why I think it's going to be the storyline. I'm going crazy.
I think Vegas has the over-under at 5.5. I think that's a really good line. Teron says 6. So let's count them out. Let's count them out. We got Lamb, Judy, Ruggs, Jefferson, all 4 locks, right?
Higgins.
I don't think T. Higgins is going first round. I think the next most likely are Ayuk, Jalen Reagor, maybe, and then Denzel Mims. I think if there's 7, it's those guys.
Rager's borderline for sure. Well, and if he was sitting there at 29, if the Titans are at 29 and Jalen Reagor's there, I would have a very, very difficult.
All right, let's play a quick game. We got 2 of us. I like this stuff. It's just
you have 3 of us.
Quick. Well, yeah. Well, two people to talk to. Well, actually, I got a whole bevy of people to talk to. Hello.
That's just in his mind.
What are you doing? Is this just you and Austin?
No. Well, 2 people. I'm talking about you. I'm talking about Buck and Austin. But now I'm going to spread it out even more. Let's do crazy questions just off the top of Zach's dome. All right.
Before we do crazy questions, let me remind the good people about our friends at Tame the Beast. You need to wash your hands. You need to get under your fingernails. You need to do so with the Yawp hand wash. It exfoliates. You need to get under your fingernails because that's where the germs live. And if you're washing your hands as many times as the good Dr. Tony Fauci is telling you you should, this is the stuff that you need to go with. Not only for the purposes of washing your hands, you can get shower products there. I shave with my Tame the Beast shaving cream because it's good for sensitive skin and it smells fantastic. I had to look up what the hell sandalwood smelled like, but now I know it smells like my neck. You can go and you can get all of these fantastic grooming products at getbeast.com. You use the promo code AZ50, saves you 50% off. The COVID you're fighting off the COVID with soap, then you're saving a little money that the COVID is trying to take from you with the promo code AZ50 at getbeast.com.
Hey, I used the promo code the other day, got some new body wash and some hand soap. And I've
used it as well. I tell everybody about it.
Indeed.
All right, Zach, rapid fire off the top of your dome. What you
have it. You're the
all right,
sir, for you and the 2 people that you're talking about.
No. I'm talking about everybody in this virtual nighttime room. And Ethan, you're getting to like Zach has had a long day. Zach has had a long day. It's going to get a little bit longer because you're going to answer this question, and that is the first wide receiver first round bust that pops in your head. Okay, think about it. First one. First wide
time.
Yeah. What's the first wide receiver in the first round that's a bust that pops in your head?
Darius Hayward-Bay.
Buck.
Oh,
look at those eyes.
I'm a bust wide receiver.
In the first round.
The kid from the Bengals, the fast guy whose name escapes me.
John Ross.
Yes, John Ross.
Let's see. Justin Blackman. We've got DGB. Steph Cobb has Charles Rogers. I'm Charles Rogers.
Good one.
Ballin.
You just name a guy for the Lions not named Calvin Johnson. They all busted.
Ballin says Corey Davis is just being a jerk. Just unnecessary shot at Corey Davis. Maybe for a 5th overall pick bust, not for a first round pick.
So was that your rapid fire question?
Yeah. Well, mine was Brashard Perryman of the Ravens.
Oh, he's on his 3rd team. He's having a pretty good. He's lasted.
As a first round pick.
Listen, if you can stick in the league, is he coming up on 5 years? If I've been out of college 5 years, this is going to be his 5th year in the league. You make it 5 years in the NFL, I don't think you could call him a bust.
Oh, you absolutely. Yes, you can call him a bust. He's trash.
Man, Charles, I forgot that Charles Rogers passed away.
And the reason why I know this is because I watched all the Bucs games last year. Teron says that Perriman had a productive season last year. Towards the end, when the hammies started to get to Tampa Bay, and Mike Evans went down, and Chris Godwin went down with hamstrings, Brashard Perriman actually single-handedly beat the Lions. He had a great performance in that game. But overall, as a first-round pick, I expect more. My expectations are very, very high. We talked a little bit about Corey Davis. you got to be. I mean, Kevin White was a great one. Steph Dobbs brings up Kevin White.
B-Rat with Laquan Treadwell, your boy from Ole Miss. What is he doing? Because that was awful. He couldn't even get active on the Vikings.
I think he's a Viking again.
No, that was last year. He re-signed with the Vikings last year for a 1-year contract. He took minimum, he took a pay cut. It didn't really make any sense
because that's what he earned.
Yeah, but it doesn't make sense to do that. He's out with the Falcons this year for a 1-year deal. Let's see.
Man, I forgot about Justin Blackmon out of Oregon, or was it Oklahoma State? He was
correct.
So good in college. And
Justin Blackmon, didn't he have the deal with Dion where he got suspended for the whole season and he couldn't play at Oklahoma State because he was hanging out with Deion Sanders?
Yeah, and so this is a good question. This is, I think, it's just an opinion. And Teron says Kevin White had a bunch of injuries. I wouldn't call him a bust. He got hurt. Now, this is my opinion. I don't give a damn, right? If you get hurt
that was dead,
and you suck, you're a bust. Do you agree, or do you think that
I typically like to differentiate between busts because they didn't try or they weren't smart enough or just weren't good enough, and busts who had something outside of their control happen, like an injury.
Buck?
I think I'm with Zach on this. It's a tough, because ultimately what you're talking about is he didn't pan out, right? And maybe bust is too harsh, but that's essentially what it is. I mean, you call a spade a spade. If they don't work out and you take them in the first round, if Corey Davis ends up on another team with the stat lines that he's been producing over the past 4 years, I think it's justifiable to call Corey Davis a bust to a degree.
And Corey Davis hasn't had the level of injuries yet to call him a bust. Yeah. I think injuries like Jamarcus Russell, flat out bust. Kevin White, that guy was hurt the day he was drafted.
Tyrone Calico,
I don't label him as straight up bust. He got horse collared. Like Tyrone Calico was one of the reasons why the horse collar tackle became illegal, because he blew out both knees in the same play on the turf. So when that happens, I have a harder time just being like, oh, bust. He didn't pan out. He sucked.
And Teron makes a good point. If a guy gets hurt, what do you expect him to do? That's crazy. No, it's the expectations are relative to.
It's harsh and it's unfair. I
think you have to be able to allow to use the actual situation. I think it's not all busts are created the same.
No,
and so I think you have to, Trent Richardson, that's a bust. He didn't have injury problems. He just busted because he wasn't very good. He wasn't quick, or for whatever reason, Trent Richardson wasn't very good. But some guys get hurt and they can't control that, and it's unlucky and it sucks. And I have a hard time labeling those guys like I do Ryan Leaf,
Yeah, I see, because what Cody is saying is Davis just hasn't had production for a first-round guy, but he is. Not only
Ryan Leaf had mental health problems, right? Can you call that? I mean, are you going to put him in a different category?
I think
how many pools are we going to have? I mean,
substance abuse is in your control. Obviously, Ryan Leaf had serious issues and had to go get those fixed. And I'm not trying to, act like those aren't issues.
That's why I'm bringing it up.
But like Jamarcus Russell was literally on purple drink. That's what he talked about. And that's one of the reasons why Jamarcus Russell was not any good at quarterback. One of the reasons. Ryan Leaf, he had substance abuse issues, but that wasn't all of what made Ryan Leaf. He had a terrible attitude, and he didn't translate very well.
I just think that it's a cop-out, because in today's society, I'm just going to go there, is you can cop out and say, well, this guy had this guy had that.
But an injury is something that happens on the field that they can't control.
But as Vrabel said, and Vrabel said this many times, it's actually one of my favorite sayings that I've ever heard Vrabel speak about, and that is, you're going to get hurt in this league 100% of the time. You're going to. It's just, you've signed up for it. You're going to get banged up. You're going to get injured, some more severe than others, but everybody knows that. So it's unfortunate, right? But it's still a bust if you are drafted to do something of greatness, right? Because of what a team is banking on.
Here's the differentiating thing, because Kevin White with, as B-Rep points out, 285 career receiving yards, a bust. Injury or not, bust. Corey Davis, depending on how he works out, probably disappointment more than bust. I think there are tiers. There are varying degrees. People are going to get hurt, and people are going to have substance abuse issues, and people are going to have different effort issues. There can be tiers of busts. But overall,
and that's my point.
Yeah, there can be tiers.
And like Maven says, responding to Tehran, if you train harder, work harder, study harder, you can prevent injuries. Like, that's kind of ignorant.
I disagree.
That's a bad. Like, sometimes stuff happens. Like, Jay Williams is a good example. Basketball player, one of the most talented guards in college basketball. Motorcycle accident, career done. Like, that sucked. Is Jay Williams a bust?
Yes.
Yes. But he's not a bust because he was a bad basketball player.
And all I'm saying is, you're talking about levels and tiers. You're still tier 1, tier 87.
I'm just thinking, like, you have to add it, like you could say, is it I'm trying to think of a good example because of a play like Tyrone Calico. I don't know what Tyrone Calico would have become if he didn't blow out both knees because Roy Williams strangled him to death on the sideline there. Like, but he probably wouldn't have been done right then. And so that injury really changed the trajectory of his career. That was out of his control.
Guys who get hurt that persevere. And again, it's all case by case. And I'm not trying. Look, you can think I'm a bad person for thinking this way. We're just kind of talking.
You're a bad person. It's okay.
I don't care. But what I'm saying is Kenny Britt. Kenny Britt's an example. He tore his ACL. Tom Brady tore his ACL. They came back and they got better.
ACLs. It's not about the ACL. Like, ACLs, yeah, you can come back from. But it's about, like, Miles Jack is an example. Miles Jack went in the second round out of UCLA because they thought his knee was going to become a chronic issue. So if your knee breaks down and the cartilage breaks down, because of an ACL tear or a meniscus tear, and you're bone on bone and your knee becomes chronic, what can you do about that?
What has Miles Jack done?
Well, he's just like 4 years into his career, so he hasn't gotten to that point yet.
But he's done pretty damn well.
Yeah, no, but that was the whole thing about Miles Jack. Miles Jack wasn't, is he going to be good year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4? It's, is he going to be a guy that can play 8 years, or is his knee going to rob him of the second part of that career?
I just think you have to think about it, and it's unfortunate. It's like, this is tough. Like, Luke Kuechly played for a period of time. This is not injury. This is now going into a little bit of a different discussion. Like, is Luke Kuechly a bar none 100% Hall of Famer?
Most likely. Not first ballot, but he'll get in at some point.
Is Patrick Willis?
Yes.
Yes.
Right?
Not first ballot, but he'll get in, yeah.
Right. Those guys played for a period of time, and they avoided injury, and they played for a shorter amount of time. Like, you've got to give them credit. Right? For the guys who get injured, and that's a part of the game, I can't say the what ifs or could have been. And look, I get why it's unfair, but it's just the facts of you're a bust.
But there's different. Look, I'm not saying that they can't be labeled a bust, but I think it's like they were a bust because, man, that guy had some bad injury luck. Like, Tehran just listed off all of Kevin White's injuries. Fractured tibia, fractured fibula, and a shoulder scapula fracture 3 years in a row.
No, I don't disagree that it's brutal luck, but luck plays into
Jake Locker.
Jake Locker was a bust in both ways.
Bust?
In both ways.
What about if Marcus Mariota continues to be a career backup for the rest of his career, plays 10 to 12 years, career backup, but had a playoff win, led his team to whatever, nine win seasons? What would we be labeling him as? I think
we can have an entire
That's
show.
A huge hypothetical.
Yes.
If you're gonna play the injury card there, Mariota's a bust.
Yeah, and Tehran nails it. Jake Locker wasn't good.
You're not a bust. If you last 10 years, you're not a bust.
But as a second overall pick, and he only started for 4.5.
BS. Are you kidding me? If Blake Bortles plays 5 more years, Buck, what are you going to call his ass?
Not a bust.
Yes, a bust. The Jags took him at 3.
Not a bust. Jeez. Not a bust. If you make it that long, you get 10 years worth of NFL paychecks. Good for you, buddy. You ain't a bust.
No, that just means you're rich.
That's good for you. American dream. Go like create a business and make a lot of money for your generations behind you. But Martin, you can still be a bust.
Listen, we're spinning our wheels here, and it's the same thing as Corey Davis. It's disappointment versus bust, okay?
But I did like that conversation. I think we cleared some things up. And look, this is why I like this show. And tomorrow we're gonna have reaction, baby. We're gonna be live. Screens are gonna be rolling. Picks are gonna be coming in. We're gonna be talking. On the clock. So this is a good preface of what's gonna come tomorrow.
Yes, fired up.
And tomorrow and the next day as well, because the A to Z Sports Digital Network, we have you covered with all of your draft needs. Make sure that you are tuning in on Facebook, on Periscope, and on YouTube. For those of you viewing with us for the first time on YouTube, we welcome you. But this has been a great time, boys. I appreciate the conversation. I appreciate the break from just hearing myself talk for an hour. It's very nice. And I know everybody liked having you here as well. So we will do it again tomorrow night. On the way out the door, make sure you support the people that support this show. The Primetime Show is free for you because of our fine friends at the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage, GaryAshton.com. Tame the Beast, getbeast.com. Promo code AZ50 saves you 50% off. And Brymac Mechanical for your HVAC needs, BRYMAK, Brymac.com. Parting shots, are we good here?
Before we get out of here, because James brings up a good question that we need to answer, and that is are we going to do the show tomorrow during or after the draft? James signs that as top fan. We will go live during the draft. It'll be around 10 picks before the Titans are on the clock, based on how things play out. Like, we got to prepare ourselves for Dave Gettleman's internet to crash or however what's going to happen with that. But we will be on live during the draft, a few picks before the Titans. We'll react to the Titans pick, and who knows how far we'll go from there. So be ready tomorrow night, Periscope, Facebook, YouTube. We're going to have a good time for sure.
Zach?
No, I can't wait. I'm going to need to go to sleep so I can wake up tomorrow, do another show. That means it's even closer. This is all we got. I got the last dance of the NFL draft because people eat bats. That's it.
So until tomorrow night, in the midst of the NFL draft, we will see you here on the very same streaming platforms. So as always, fam,